Hi, welcome to Transforming Thriving Together Summit. I'm Anne from Customized Training Solutions. And I have here with me um, several diverse individuals who will be talking about mindset and heart set and its relationship to the leadership journey. Leadership is a journey, according to John Donahoe. He was then the PayPal chairman when he was quoted on this. Now he's Nike CEO. Leadership is not just for leading groups of people or teams, it's also leading oneself in our daily lives. So for our topic today, heart set and mindset and the leadership journey, we are joined today by resource people coming from diverse backgrounds. Please let us all welcome Miss Hetal Bath. Okay. She was a banker. Now she's a certified emotional intelligence trainer, practitioner, and facilitator, a certified creative coaching practitioner using the tools of points of view phototherapy. Her mission and passion is humanizing the corporate space via emotional intelligence and helping people and helping themselves through the concept of meaningful conversations using phototherapy. Jeremiah Theo is a world-class charisma coach who specializes in clients' personal confidence empowerment through capitalism on innate strengths. Jeremiah is also involved with developing life skills training curriculum for Singapore's Ministry of Education. And we have also Mr. Jojo Apollo. He's a billion-dollar business builder. He's CEO and 30 plus years in business. He's a #1 best-selling author in Amazon. He's also a public speaker, an NLP master trainer. He's a certified master practitioner and trainer of NLP from the National Federation of Neuro-Linguistic Programming and the American Union of NLP, certified NLP practitioner trainer of NLP Academy in UK under John Grinder, the co-creator of NLP. And last but not the least, we have Miss Dana Grossman, who describes herself as a criminal lawyer turned international mediator. She's also a best-selling author and an expat mother to 4 boys and a parenting advisor. Welcome to Transforming and Thriving Together Summit. So, to start the program, let us hear from Ms. Hetal on her take about the leadership journey and what does it take. Ms. Hetal?
Thank you so much, Anne, for that introduction. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everyone else here. And hi, Marilyn. I must say, Marilyn, that you and your team have really done an amazing job, organizing such a comprehensive, much-needed summit during this time. And I'm so grateful to be part of such a high-caliber lineup of panel as well to share the thoughts of, what more, actually on the topic that is actually very interesting and close to my heart. When I talk about starting the journey with the right mindset and heart set, it's something that's really close to heart. I say that because it has been a priority in all my training and facilitation work to inject the human touch to leadership. And starting with the right mindset or heart set is precisely what is instrumental when you talk about humanizing the corporate space or the business world. I was actually asking myself what would be the most relevant to the theme today when we talk about starting with the right mindset and heart set in order to transform and thrive together during such interesting times that the world has been going through since over a year now. And I felt that, one of the things that would fit well would be really focusing on the importance of elevating our emotional intelligence as a leader during this time for both personal and professional growth. Think about it. We all entered the pandemic simultaneously about a year ago. However, fast forward a year later, we all arrived at a very different place. Some of us actually lost livelihood, some lost loved ones, some sadly losing loved ones without even seeing them for the last time. Then you have people all around the world juggling the concept of working remotely or working from home while managing their families. You've got blurred boundaries of where does work stop, where does family time start. For some, working from home without having any family at all around them. So loneliness creeps in, without being able to socialize.
Mhm.
Then if you look at the other spectrum again, you have people, whose businesses are thriving more than ever during this time. You've got industries like medical equipment, acquisitions, that they're doing very well. Um, you see how different it is for everyone. And the
Yes.
question really is, what has it been for you? Do you know how has it been for your people? Because we all remember entered simultaneously, but we all arrived in very different places. And the point I'm trying to make here is, actually, we all have very different emotions when we go through this journey. And to be able to acknowledge and process your emotions and manage them, and at the same time to be able to understand and be aware that the emotions of those around you that you are leading or you're working with or you're living with, to be aware that each of the person you are leading is going through very different emotion so that you can then manage your relationships accordingly to be able to influence them positively is probably, I would say, at this time, one of the most, if not the most crucial skills that's needed if you want to actually transform and thrive together successfully. I just want to say that recently I was just watching one of the talks by Daniel Goleman. And for those of you who don't know, Daniel Goleman is, basically labeled as the father of emotional intelligence. And, he wrote his book, Emotional Intelligence, in the 1990s, late 1990s. And he popularized the concept of EI with tremendous amount of research. And he said in his talk, that technical skills or your IQ or your credentials, like whether it's engineering, whether you are an MBA or whether you're a doctor, takes you to some point, where there are so many others at that same level with the same credentials. So if you talk about IQ alone, can it be a predictor of success at that stage of leadership?
Okay.
And then he goes on to saying, which is very interesting, I thought that, the abilities like big picture thinking, or you have pattern recognition, understanding like something that's complex going on over here, and how is it going to, ramify the other end, or how a decision that, you make today is going to impact in the next 5 or 10 years down the road. All these are good skills, basically needed skills, and it allows you to identify your strategy. But once your strategy is in place, what's going to take you beyond is actually the people, isn't it? It's the people in your team and your organization.
So
Or if you're
EQ.
talking about family space, your family. And when the
EQ.
people involved, then obviously the emotions involved, and we'll discuss about that a little later, hopefully.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
So EQ is also equated or um, affects emotions.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Hetal. Jojo, what's your opinion?
Well, Hetal is very right. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Hetal, on about managing our emotions. Yeah, and I would I would like to take this more from a the perspective of a lot of people here are in business, right? And admittedly, 2020, many business just crashed, like 25% only of the sales is left behind. I've also had friends who lost 90% of their business. So that's terrible, right, guys? When you're in such a situation. So when you talk about heart set, yeah, so the key question that we can probably ask ourselves is how can you maintain a powerful heart set and mindset amidst the crisis? You know, So this reminded me, like a couple of years ago, I was managing a business, and when I joined that company, suddenly, the deal with a regional partner fell apart, and then they left the company, and immediately they took away 30% of the business, and the company, like computations, immediately went haywire. Okay, we were about to lose $8 million in a year. That's a crisis, right, guys? So like many companies, just boom, suddenly you lost your sales, then suddenly you are on the red. So how do you maintain your mindset then? But you know what? Things got even worse because I found out there was so much corruption inside the company. I had to fire 15 out of 25 of the 25 branch managers, 3 of 4 regional managers, and 2 out of 3 vice presidents. So looking back, how did I manage my personal mindset so that we could get away from the crisis? And 3 things come into mind. Number 1 is this: what's your big why? Okay, amidst all of that corruption, all of that chaos, like now you have chaos, what's your big why to get you over? Yeah. So during that time, I had my big why, because there were employees in the company that, they were working for more than 25 years, and they would lose their pension. Yeah. And that was my big why. How can I make sure that they will get their pension? Second is this: having clarity of goals. No? Okay, clarity of goals is very important. When you have very specific, detailed goals, then things get better. But the last one is this, and this is something that I came about, yeah, and the thing on using your subconscious. Do you know, guys, that there is what you call subconscious intelligence, that you can communicate directly to your subconscious mind so that you will overcome those self-sabotage and limiting beliefs that you have and eliminate that quickly. So these 3 things helped me during that time: having my big why, a clear goal, and then using techniques of subconscious intelligence. So that's my take on this, Anne. I think you're muted, Anne. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, 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 it's one of those getting getting comfortable with technology.
Sure.
Okay. So going back, so in your opinion, you believe that there is also that something that has to come from within.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, to share with other people. Okay, Jeremiah, how
Yeah,
about you?
definitely love what Jojo and Heather share about, subconsciousness and as well emotional intelligence. And for me, when it comes to think about heart set and mindset, really what it matters is about knowing yourself and living out your best abilities to the fullest every day. And what does it mean? It comes with the importance of charisma. And often when we look at the word charisma, that is the urban contemporary definition. No, dictionary.com says that it's the attractive quality that influence huge group of number of people to follow what you say and what you do, and it's that really huge charm that attract people. But if you look at the original word of charisma, not the contemporary one, but the ancient Greek word, it actually means grace, the gift of grace. That is the root word charis. And ma, the suffix, means just add on to the possession. So in totality, it means that charisma is not exactly like what the contemporary culture says is attractive confidence. But confidence is a fruit of living out our gift to the fullest. And if you look at COVID-19 world that we live in today, there are two major crises that hit us really hard this season. That is number one, unemployment rate hit an all-time high globally. For example, in USA, at least about 10 million people are unemployed. But what are the results because of the unemployment? One thing that hits most of us is the mental health crisis, that often we lose who we are, the identity, clarity. So for many, be entrepreneurs, leaders who lost their jobs, often most of us will have attached our identity on our job, our roles, and the money that we rake in. But what about the person who we are when we are with our family or with our communities? And coming to the first question is, why is charisma so important in today's COVID-19 era? Simply because if we can't be happy who we are as individual, we can't live out to the fullest and impact people around us, because we can't always be, able to serve to the best of our abilities. And the second question I want to talk about is also, how do we discover and utilize charisma to excel with high performance in workplaces and family life? Truly, often we think that what we do determines who we are. But can I suggest that actually the order is in reverse? Always we try to do something to prove who we are is a flawed concept, because we can be meeting unexpected accidents in the world, or like COVID-19 hits us really hard and it affects what we do. And we want these events to affect who we are, or rather, do you want to be the person who you are contented and determine what you do and influence others to follow you and live to the best of ability? There's a simple story I want to share with you about this lady called Gonsha. Gonsha was born in 1910, and at the age of 1928, she has a calling to be a nun to serve the poorest of the poorest. And afterwards, she actually went to found the organization that is called the Missionaries of Charity, a Roman Catholic religious congregation that had over 4,500 nuns and was active in 133 countries in 2012. And this lady was given the Nobel Prize Award in 1979. Some of you might have known or knows who I'm talking about, and that lady is none other than Mother Teresa. And she has a very famous quote. She says that, "I'm not called to be successful. I'm called to be faithful." She knows who she is. She knew who she was, and she knew what her calling was. And therefore, she was able to impact the people, not the richest, not those wealthy or people can add value to her, but the poorest or the poorest. She knew exactly who she was and what her calling is. And that is charisma, because charisma is a gift, living out the gift to the fullest and to serve others. And the last question I want to share before I hand the time over to Anne, and that is, how exactly is relevant for charisma in the present age of automation and artificial intelligence? Just like what Hato mentioned just now, emotional intelligence. Similarly, charisma will give us a comparative advantage over the robots and automation. And because we need to think of the coming decade from 2020 to 2030, what can we do to build our competency in a way that the robots can't replace us, and that we become more invaluable to our organization, that as leaders, we're able to bring more value to the industry? And that is to really ask yourself, what is your gift? What is the gift in your hand that you can bring out to serve the society, that you can bring out to build your leaders, that you can bring out to bring the greater good, for whoever is in your environment and your communities? And one last quote I want to share with you is from the senior pastor of the largest church in America, Life Church. His name is Craig Rochelle. He always taught his congregants and his leader that people rather follow you for who you are and not for what you can do. People rather follow you that you know who you are and not exactly what you're doing. So I hope that will help you to understand that with charisma may help you to live your life to the fullest and excel in this COVID-19 season. Time back to you, Anne.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremiah. Okay, that was very interesting fact about the real meaning of charisma originally. Dana, Dana.
Hey
Hi.
guys, hi hi. Um,
Hi.
so yes, good morning from Greece. I love being last because I hear everybody and everything makes so much sense, and it's nice to see the how it collides together to a beautiful toolkit for everybody to use in our personal life and our business life. And when I was asked, I think like 2 weeks ago by Marilyn, who organized this conference, what is leadership for me? I was sitting and thinking about it in terms of business, in terms of my personal life as a mom, as a woman. And I think what came to mind at the time was a definition that I said, leadership is basically, or a leader, an influencer is someone that is authentic self, that is evolving all the time, growing, learning, moving forward. And by doing that, basically showing up vulnerability, showing up with the real heart, with the real intention, with the real mission, and being himself, whether it's hard or difficult or whether it's easy, we show up as we are. So it comes to your quote, Jeremiah, people will follow us for who we are. If you show up authentic, if you show up and you show who you are really from the inside, when it's hard, you share what's hard for you. When you overcome, you show what helped you to overcome. Then I think people will see the true power of you and will follow you as a leader, as an influencer. Some of us are leading without even knowing that. And you say, oh, a leader is someone who has a lot of followers or managing a big company. Yes, if someone reached a position of leading a big company, you probably have the ability, you probably have mastered those skills of clarity, of compassion, of empathy that I'm going to talk about today. And as Jojo said, you need to use those tools in order to maximize your potential to be a leader. Some of you are leaders without even knowing that. I'm a leader for my kids, but these kids are leaders for me. I'm watching my boys and I'm learning a lot from them. They go ahead with their mission, with their passion. As Jojo said, they know what their big why is. They are not getting confused by anything else. They are very straightforward. They do whatever it takes in order to get their mission done. And by looking at them, when you look around you, there are so many people that you can get influenced by, you can get inspired by, and then to take these skills together forward to create these ripples of goodness. We are all, what I believe, we are all little stones that are thrown into this lake of goodness and creating ripples. When we are colliding our ripples, like we're meeting today, Jojo, Hetel, Jeremiah, coming to bring you those skills of leadership and influence, I think this is the true power. And I do believe that through all our journeys, whether it's before the COVID, during COVID, after COVID, the mindset and heart set that is a brilliant topic for today's talk, it is what counts. Whether we still have our job or not, whether we're struggling financially, whether we're struggling emotionally, whether we're struggling, with our health, what comes from here and from the heart, this is what keeps us going. So what Jojo said about connecting to the subconscious, with that he will talk later on, I think it's super powerful. And what I find very powerful is the empathy. I will talk about it later regarding the questions, but empathy not just to others, empathy to ourselves, to be in the moment, to be present and understand we're struggling now for this and this and these reasons. It's shitty and it's okay. What do we do with that? What can we do in order to raise our awareness, to raise our compassion to ourselves? Empathy is basically the ability to read emotionally what someone's thinking. But how often do you really look inside and see and think about why do we think the way we think? What really controls my mind? What really controls my emotion? And therefore, make a decision for my action and therefore for my results. So no matter where you are now in life, in every position, in every company, in every startup or journey that you took in order to go forward, stop and give yourself this grace. Be empathetic towards yourself to understand what is it that you need and what are the tools around you that can support you. And that's what I'm going to focus on today and the talk a bit later. So I hope it gives a bit of clarity.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, from all your sharings about leading or starting this journey with Heartset and Mindset, it seems to me that it's supposed to radiate from the individual first, is right? Because we talk about charisma, the empathy, and emotional intelligence. So really, it seems that the concept of mindset follows if heart set has already been set, right? So, um, uh, what we also found out, or from your sharing, it's just that if you're emotionally trying to develop emotional intelligence, how does I think this one's for Hetal, how does the process of elevating or increasing your emotional intelligence happen? So how does it start?
Thank you, Anne, for that question. Actually, it's very interesting because as Dana was just speaking, I think it ties very well to what she was saying just now about starting not just having empathy with others but with yourself. And you are right, and it starts with yourself. But if you look at emotional intelligence, and if I were to just simplify it, it's just two main components: yourself and others. Okay, and when you talk about the journey of elevating your emotional intelligence when it comes to yourself, it's really it starts with knowing that at the given moment or time, what are you feeling? What are you actually going through? It's I call it taking stock of your emotions. How often do you actually do that? And that's where it starts. It's like, when you enter a mall, or when you're actually going somewhere and you're going to put something on a GPS, you need to first know where you are if you're going to know where you're going to, end up. So that knowing where you are is actually taking stock of your emotions. And the simplest thing, you can do, and it's going to sound very, very simple, but it's very powerful. As simple as it sounds, is, I would invite all of you to actually, once the summit is over and, you have time, go back and actually backtrack your 24 hours. I invite all of you to do this. List down every emotion that you would have felt during the 24 hours and observe how many emotions were you actually able to recall and list down. And exactly like what Dana was saying, are you actually, empathizing with yourself? And previously, our keynote speaker this afternoon said, giving yourself the permission to be human. Are you actually, able to take stock of your emotions? And acknowledging exactly what you're feeling at that time. Are you feeling bad? Are you feeling positive? Are you feeling negative? And before you can, actually process and manage your emotion, you really need to know where you are in terms of your emotion. So that list of 24 hours is probably where you would start your journey, because whatever you felt during that period is going to show up in your behavior and your decision. And the reason for that is, as much as we would like to believe that we are, logical beings, and that have emotions, it's exactly the opposite. We actually are emotional beings who learn how to reason. And why I say that is, and just a fun fact, if I can, don't do this at home, just to bring light to the situation. If you were to actually poke your eye with this pen, and another pen to poke your ears, where it actually meets, and Jojo, probably being an expert in mind, could correct me if I'm wrong, but where it would actually meet is, it's what we call our emotional brain, or the amygdala, the limbic brain. And it's given to us by nature for our survival. It's responsible for your flight and fight mode. So when we are faced with a situation, our brain processes it as either a threat or a reward, and it's then communicated to your thinking brain. Then determines, how you're going to behave, how you're going to, make your decisions. And the neuroscience shows that when we feel positive, basically, you are in a broadened thinking effect. So you have, you feel satisfied, you feel meaningful, valued, useful, and that's going to translate in how engaged you feel, how creative you become, how receptive you are to new ideas. And of course, conversely, if you feel negative and when you do your tracking of your emotions, then that's going to translate as stress, frustration, worry. It's going to give you a narrowing effect. which it's going to become limited in your thinking, disengaged. So we become biased in our views. We lose the capacity to objectively evaluate the situation, and all this eventually shows up in how engaged we are in our performance. So when something as unprecedented as the pandemic actually happens and threatens our lives and our job and all of that, as a leader, if you choose to ignore these effects on the people and on yourself, and instead just to go about doing your business without addressing any of this possible impact, that's like telling your people, shut down part of your brain and don't bring it to work. So the answer to the question really is, and I know it was a long-winded way of answering it, but it starts with the understanding that emotions are real.
Okay.
There's a science behind it, and to acknowledge how you're feeling at that present moment.
Okay.
All right.
So emotional intelligence is emotion. Sometimes people, well, particularly me, there was a point that I confused the concept of emotional intelligence and having empathy. um, it is, and I think it is common that we sometimes think that emotional intelligence is just plain empathy. But then when you ask them to please elaborate on it, they end up saying something else. So now that Hetal has more or less gave us a bigger picture of what emotional intelligence is, now let's talk about empathy since it's usually confused. So, Dana, I'm sorry, I have a friend who's Dana. so, so Dana, and
It's okay.
I know she also doesn't want. She would correct me if I call her Dana. So, Dana, um, after emotional intelligence, can you help us further by explaining what then is empathy? And how does it relate to emotional intelligence?
Okay, so empathy is a very powerful skill for the 21st century. Until now, and definitely forward. Having said that, it is connected to emotional intelligence, which we're going to understand in a minute. Empathy is the ability to emotionally read and understand someone else's point of view. I can agree or disagree with that, but I can understand and read emotionally why they act the way they act, why they're coming from the way they're coming. In order to do that very well, when you have high EQ, high and emotional intelligence, it's easier for you to do that because you're in the state automatically. But for people that don't have it automatically or naturally, it's okay to practice by looking at people, the way they act, trying to analyze it, journal it, and then to ask the question to make sure they really understand. The easiest way to do it is actually to do it on yourself first, to see what you think, how you feel about it, what are your actions accordingly, and then to analyze it, to be empathetic toward yourself, to analyze and understand the process of it. So the empathy is actually the action outside. Emotional intelligence is something that you have, as Ethel was explaining, that allows you to take it outside and to act.
Okay. Now it's getting clearer. So, with emotional intelligence and empathy's from inside going out, and emotional intelligence is identifying from within. So similar to Jeremiah's sharing about the concept of charisma, it's something that's inside also from within, right? So um, what if you don't have it? Say there is granted there is empathy, but I from my understanding, charisma is also that sureness in you. So you can have empathy, you can have emotional intelligence, but then you can still be unsure, right? So how is it? There are some that would recommend that you just fake it until you make it. So since you've already have, you know that you're empathic towards people and you are emotionally equipped, or you have the intelligence, the level for it, but then you don't feel comfortable. So you just fake it. Um, trying to feel that you're comfortable or you can relate really well, but actually you're struggling from within. So in the long run, is it worth it? Because some people really all they needed is that just that short portion to fake it until they feel comfortable. But then also sometimes it's not going to work. So what's the right balance, or how do you um, do it properly, I guess?
Okay, so I will share a simple story before touching about the fake it to make methodology that is being brought up by Amy Cuddy, the famous TED Talk speaker. So my story is that I was born a really shy, introverted Chinese Singaporean, and I never saw myself becoming two person. Number one is a public speaker. Number two is an entrepreneur. So only until the fact that at the age of 19, I was being invited to teach and coach students in the secondary school in Singapore to help out a mate in church. And that was like my first time, giving that opportunity. And to be honest, I was freaking out because I've never done any classes before. But long story short, it was a 3 days, full day seminars. So my first time knowing that, 3 days, 8 hours per day. And the first 2 hours, I freaked out. I messed up. People were not listening to me. The students were notorious. They're not like well behaved. So then at the 2 hour mark, I realized that, you know what? I actually can do this. If I don't give out my very best, it's going to be messed up for the remaining 24, 22 hours. So I realized that as I'm a muscle of my show, I just going to give it all and be crazy with them and be confident and be loud and be as funny as I can, sharing the materials and etc. And one thing I learned is that confidence can be nurtured, confidence can be trained, but confidence is not the same as charisma. Charisma is a gift from within that you have, but you need to develop the gift. What happens if you don't develop a gift? Your gift will be lost. Your gift will not be able to be utilized to the fullest. And to answer the question about fake it till you make it, which is a kind of behaviorism, high power postures, no doubt it has a short-term power boost in confidence. But in the long run, what happens if you met an accident, right? And you lost your legs or you lost ability to speak? That's a really hard question, isn't it? Are we still able to be confident of who we are as individuals? And the answer is not easy. Many people take the journey to discover their identity and therefore affect their outward lifestyle and able to impact other people along the journey. So in short, behaviorism is short term, but if we want to look at long-term sustainable confidence, which is fruit, we need to look at the discovery from within, an inside-out transformation.
Inside transformation. So faking it until you make it will only work for a certain time.
It will help for a short run. But if you meet really huge challenges that you're forced to confront your weaknesses in public, I'm not sure faking till you make it will help you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Dana?
I think Dana is out. Yeah, she maybe her internet connection.
Okay. She has a question for you, Jojo.
Okay.
Actually, she does have a question about the subconscious intelligence. It's um, it's different from emotional intelligence,
Oh yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
that's
So
right.
where does it go between empathy, emotional intelligence, and subconscious intelligence?
Okay. Uh, it's like this. Do you have a friend, like for example, I know Hetal, Jeremiah, maybe you have this. We have friends that cannot control their anger, right? And then I have had that. I have had a friend who would burst like a volcano, yeah, from time to time. Then he will come to me uh, crying, why did I do that? And all. Yeah. And then, of course, he's already aware of that kind of behavior. And yet, he cannot control himself to remove that. And what I've found is this. when people have recurring emotional issues, yeah, they actually have a baggage from the past. And often the baggage is created, believe it or not, when we were between age 1 to 12 years old. A lot of our programming was created during that time. And it is only by using techniques of subconscious intelligence that you will be able to let the person reframe, go back to the past, learn from that particular event in the past so that they will change their behavior today. So I've done that, and that friend, for example, using simple subconscious intelligence processes in just 10-15 minutes, suddenly after years of like having no control on emotions, anger, suddenly he said, now I can actually control my emotions. And when I ask him about the memory in the past, he will actually describe memories when he was 5 years old, when he was 8 years old, that events, that triggered that anger that is still like pulsating today. Only when he processed that, then he was able to overcome his emotions today. So something like that. So what is subconscious intelligence? So it's really a skill. It's a skill, number one, that in which you can communicate directly to your subconscious mind, yeah, so that you can control, you can create, yeah, and you can change also, yeah, your behaviors. That's really emotion, what you call subconscious intelligence.
So you can use it to um, control your um, the outcome of your business, like what's happening right now. Can the subconscious intelligence help the leaders who are um, in a way trying to balance their inner fears and at the same time their teammates or their organizations uh, how do you uncertainty, fear, and all those emotions mixed together. So
Exactly.
can
So
subconscious intelligence help you with that in the business?
definitely. So, like, I've had leaders who have this thing, they say to themselves, I'm not good enough. Yeah. So, there will be a challenge and they will say, I'm not good enough. They will not have confidence. They will look down on themselves. So, using subconscious intelligence, you process the memories in the past that were contributing to that belief. They learn from it, and then they come out from it, and there are other subconscious intelligence techniques to combine to put a person in a high performance positive state immediately.
To get to the level of charisma that Jeremiah was saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you can exude later on.
Yes, like I'll give you a quick example. Like I can totally change like your state of mind right here right now when I will say one statement. You know what it
Okay.
is?
What?
Guys, do you know that it's my birthday today?
Oh, really?
You see the change in the state of mind now? Because birthdays are like patterns, yeah? Positive patterns, positive things. When people hear that someone is celebrating their birthday, there's immediately a burst of positive emotions.
Oh yeah. So I caught that. So um what what works is for you to be able to utilize subconscious intelligence, you first have to identify what you want to trigger
Yep.
and then what words, and then you keep on using it So it would work if you would have a team also with you to find out their to increase their level of say happiness at work, or trying to be resilient with the current situation. As a leader, you would have to find those words that will create the right reaction to them or for them.
And there's
Yeah.
a question in the chat,
Mhm.
and maybe we should read that. And the question said, should you lead with from the heart to the head or from the head to the heart? Okay. So the
Mhm.
question is, what is heart-centered leadership? Should I lead from the head or should I lead from the heart? That was the question. Okay.
Ah,
And my take on that is this: you gotta lead both, lead from the head and from the heart and from the heart to the head. Okay. So it's like we gotta use our conscious mind, our own intelligence to evaluate things first and make a decision, then bring that to our heart, okay, to temper, to analyze the overall emotional impact to the whole organization as well to ourselves, and then we get to a different level of a decision, then bring it back to our head to implement. So there's nothing. It's not about leading from the heart or leading from the head. It's both.
okay. Leading both. But you would have to agree that it's very hard to balance it. Because if you are trying to lead and balance it, there are biases, and sometimes you might mistook what you feel that you're leading from the heart when actually you're leading from the mind, and vice versa. So um, I think it also ties up with the concept of charisma that Jeremiah was saying. There is sometimes um, uh, you see that you have to be aware, and then sometimes if you are leading and then you have to balance it, and you really are aware of what you are doing, but it may not necessarily be the right balance, right? So um, in modern times, the concept of charisma means in a way, I don't know if it is culturally based, but here in the Philippines, charisma is also related to having influence or popularity. And even though you said that it's a modern version, it's still part of having the original concept of charisma. So, as an individual, if a person, say in general, they have a lot of charisma and they exude it, okay, what can be the danger of having too much of it? Is it really possible to have too much of the charisma? It seemed to work with Mother Teresa. I don't think she had a lot of it, but I did not see that it affected her in a negative manner. So how is it?
So just share about this philosophy first in a short half a minute, and that is Ikigai philosophy. The Japanese meaning of the word Ikigai, it means the reason of being. And there are 4 questions that are being placed out. Number 1 is, what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what you can be paid for. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what you can pay for. So what do you love and what are you good at? It's more self-discovery, your gift, your charisma. But if we are not able to answer 3rd and 4th questions that relate to the society, the people that you're influencing, what does the world need and what you can be paid for, and that can lead to the negative consequences of charisma. For example, there are many leaders out there, that they have a lot of charisma, confidence, right? But obviously of scandals, of negative impact upon society, cult leaders are great categories of examples. So to answer danger, some dangers will be, instead of elevating the needs of others, we are elevating the needs of ourselves. And that in the short run, that in the long run can be very dangerous, not to people around you, but even to yourself as well, because the identity are being affected by then what you do and the influence you get. Narcissism is in everyone, but we need to manage it. We need to steward it to a healthy level, and to manage that, you can help it. You can help people and not to just serve our own needs. So that's one danger. Second danger is really about placing what we think are right above what people think are right. Say the moral laws of love, the moral laws of not murdering other person or lying or stealing. But yet sometimes we think that our values matter above the society's value, and we become greater than the society, a cult of personality. That can be a dangerous move as well, because then my question is, what kind of impact would that leader bring upon to the society or to the organization, to the industry? And more often than not, it can be pretty disastrous if not being monitored well or being held accountable.
Oh. So that ties in with Dana's piece about empathy. So for you to not go beyond or endanger yourself or endanger others, um, it helps that the leader or the person with that charisma develops the proper set or the proper level of empathy, right?
Right.
So on that note, um, what are the benefits of we're going to that anyway, the concept of empathy in not to end up on the dangerous aspect or levels of charisma? What sort of or benefits or maybe tools that we can share um, with the others about how we can help continue develop our charisma, but at the same time understand and be aware about the aspects of empathy that will help us guard ourselves from harm.
Yeah, I think the benefits of being empathetic in general, and especially in the workplace, as we're talking today, in order to maintain your workplace, in order to get a new one, in order to feel good where you're at. While you're being empathetic and you are able to read someone emotionally and to understand where they're coming from, basically you are gathering and you're empowering yourself with these skills of leadership. Leaders have to be empathetic. They have to work from the heart, including the mind, as Jojo said. There has to be a mix. Hello there. Quiet, please. I'm in the middle of, I'm on a boat. So the heart language is actually being practiced by practicing this empathy. When you are empathetic, you gain trust. Trust is number one skill and importance in work and in life. Because when you have the trust of your employees or your co-worker or your boss, then you get the loyalty and you maintain and build relationships. And therefore you can have collaboration, and collaboration leads to success. So you can have higher results, you can have growth for your company, you can have growth for your team, etc. Another thing that benefits from being empathetic is the ability to recharge, especially in times like this, that it's crisis. We turn to have burnout, to have loss of faith, loss of energy, to have loss of communication or connection within our team. And sometimes people just lose their ability to go forward and to take the company forward as they are expected. So by having self-empathy, it's actually recharging you, and you can bring the energy back to the game, back to your team. And the last thing, which is not the least, but I just put it in order, when you have empathy and you practice on a daily basis in the office, outside of the office, on the Zoom calls, when you're talking to someone, because today we are online a lot and we can't really read the body language completely because we are away, we are through a screen. When you practice empathy again and again and again, you have clarity. When you have clarity and you understand what people want or need or where they're coming from, you can actually reach common ground. People underestimate common ground. People really tend to focus on what is the problem, why are we different, what are the difficulties. But if you focus on common ground, the energy levels arises, as Giorgio said, the state of mind becoming better and more positive because you understand that there are things to work on together, not against each other. And only by having empathy, you can reach this common ground. Therefore, you will have less misunderstanding, less arguments, less disputes. So you can save time, you can save energy, you can save money, you can reach the results faster and better. And while you're doing that, have the tools already implemented in the team. So they see you, what you're doing, they see how it works for their best. So they are taking it forward to do it themselves.
It ties up with the topic yesterday, wherein one of the key learnings is that you lead by example. So it is one of those things that seem to be um, needed nowadays, especially when everyone's trying to cope and trying to survive and or trying to um, race back to the level of everything else that was before 2020. Okay. I also can relate about it's so much different how and when empathy really is needed, especially in platforms like this when we are talking. I used to train and face to face, and it's so hard. And right now, I'm feeling like if I was doing the training, I'd be walking around, I'd be cracking more jokes, and then I'd still feel comfortable and get back to the topic. But it seems so hard to do it here. But I really appreciate the inputs, and I know the listeners reading from the chat here. Um, they have been sharing their nuggets of wisdom that Marilyn calls it. So the aha moments during the time that we've been sharing and I've been asking you this question. So it it makes it I feel that okay, even if I don't feel comfortable, at least it's making sense to the audience. So
You're doing
on
well, Anne. You're doing
yes,
a great job.
okay, thank you, Jojo. So in with regards to emotional intelligence, Hetal said mentioned that there's two dimension. So how does one start the process of um, uh, having that self awareness to help you move on with emotional intelligence, developing more of it or growing it? So it's where will it in what aspect or during the time of the journey when we're trying to lead ourselves and we're trying to lead our teams, our organizations, um, where does one start uh, developing emotional intelligence for yourself or your self-awareness, and when does it when do you need to translate it or develop it for your people? I don't know if it makes sense. Does it?
Is that a question for me? And
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah. It's about emotional intelligence.
yeah,
I'm sorry, Hetal.
if I understand it correctly, are you asking where does it end with self and how does it move on to the others? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, as what I mentioned earlier, if you look at emotional intelligence, and I think Dana was also talking about it, that there are many traits to emotional intelligence. If you look at emotional intelligence, the main, to just simplify it, the main components were self and others. But it's really in a nutshell, emotional intelligence is about really understanding or having self-awareness and understanding your awareness, and at the same time being aware of what others are feeling. As beautifully as Dana mentioned, are you reading their body language correctly? Are you understanding what the others are going through in your team? So it comes hand in hand, actually. It's just you and then the others. So when it comes to you, then how do you manage yourself after that? Once you're aware of your emotion, how do you manage that emotion? So self-management, self-discipline comes as a next step. And if you're talking about others, then yes, you're aware of another person's emotion. Now what are you going to do about it? How are you going to manage your relationships? Are you going to actually uh, develop, like what Dana was saying, empathy? You may not be naturally empathic, but can you pick up the skills? Are you willing to learn to maybe understand how different personalities operate? That would be one way of becoming empathic as well, because you would then understand that my entire team may have different personalities. Am I sensitive to who is driven by different, who is driven differently?
Yes, I understand. Different. It's of having a different, hearing a different sound or following a different tune
Yes.
during the journey. Oh, okay. So again, it seems to be coming back again and again that for all that we've been talking about, the charisma, the empathy, the subconscious intelligence, everything boils back to starting from within, from you first, before you spread it. So for you to be a leader that actually would thrive and survive in this time, and for you to help your team, you really need to start from within. You start first. So even if you do start from outside or showing that fake concept of being brave and facing it, trying to be brave, that's the word. So trying to be brave can only get you so far. You really need to go back. Okay, I've given myself enough time, so I need to analyze or evaluate what is it in me really. So before you can effectively influence others or make them, in Jojo's term, make them have that certain reaction that you expect them to have. Okay. For the final question for our discussion, before we take in I understand, there are questions from the chat and the question and answer portion that we will answer. I will ask later. But for Jeremiah, how could charisma help us now at this time? Those who were furloughed, those who were suddenly found themselves without jobs, and who are um they still have a job, but then there's this fear that the company may not last long. I have friends who during Christmas, when I asked them, what's are you surviving, or how are you doing, and they were saying, oh, for us it was already a win that we were able to keep our people. So
Mm.
I felt the emotion. So, and they're trying to be brave. So, how do we help them um, create a braver front, or to continue being brave for their people?
Mm. So first of all, if you look at the Chinese word for crisis, it's called wei ji. The first character is danger. The second character is opportunity. And it's really a matter of perspective. How do we go about to manage and to confront our current situation to live to the best? And that is to choose a perspective. You know what? I'm going to find the gems of growth and of the ability to grow myself in this season, because COVID-19 is an ongoing inconvenient break for all of us. And we can either choose to be grumpy about it, complain about it, or to actually take time, take the journey, reflect, know yourself better, find your core values, find your beliefs, know what your calling is. And I think when it comes to charisma, it's about really discovering your gift as well. Nurture your natural gifts that's within you. Some of us might be, naturally more good with numbers, right? Or we are good with like emotions, we're good with writing or whatsoever. It's time to develop the gift from within and allow that to not just help yourself, but help others at the same time too. So I'll say charisma is really important, because if you don't know and possess and grow your charisma, you are wasting the opportunity to be a blessing and add value to people around you, especially those people whom you love, your family members. So that is really, really crucial, essential in my opinion.
Thank you very much. So it validates what some have been saying about last year, that you look at it as more like a reset button. So you can choose to say that things did not go well, or you can also say that it was an opportunity for you to make a reset to find yourself or your center. Thank you. Um, so first, there has been several. Let's share first what the chat has right now. Um, so I mentioned that the audience have been sharing their ahas during this conversation that we've been having. And one of them, Miss Angelina, said that leaders employ wisdom and logic and empathy in guiding people. Leadership should strike not a perfect but a good balance between what a leader thinks and what a leader feels. Yeah, it's a good it's a good reminder that nothing is perfect. We can only hope to balance it, the situation, and how we address them.
Anne, I
Yes.
think you keep on saying balance how you feel and balance how you think. Yeah. But
Yeah.
there is a specific process to do that. And I'd like to share that quickly. So how do you balance your heart and your mind? Okay. So the first thing is this. So for example, let's make something concrete. For example, you wanna invest, whether you would invest or not, or whether you're gonna quit your job or start a business, right? That's the question. So you use your mind first and ask three basic questions. Okay. You evaluate the environment. Then second is you evaluate your own behaviors. Are there positive behaviors that help you? It's like emotional intelligence also. Are there positive behaviors and negative behaviors within you or within your team? And then the third mind question will be is capabilities. Do you have the resources, the capabilities to do this or not? So that's very mind, right?
Yes.
Then the next three question is about heart. Is heart question. So what are they? Number one is this aligned to your values and your beliefs? That's more about your mind, rather your heart, your emotions. Is it aligned to your values or belief? And then next is this who you are? If you will invest, is this who you are? Is this like, does this represent you? But the last one is this, it's really going in spirit. So people have their different religions. So for those who believe in God, you go to God and you pray and then you ask advice. Or you can even like go to the universe and say, okay, is this like aligned to, my purpose of being in life? So I found that when you ask those questions of heart and mind together, then you get a balance. Okay. So that's how you really balance. It's not like something like
The weighing
fussy.
scale.
No, it's really a intentional process where you ask the right questions in order for you to balance the heart and the mind.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much, Jojo, for giving another dimension to the concept of balancing. So uh, I don't know if it's related to that, but then there is this question in the question and answer area here. That's, I think, for Jeremiah, because um, uh, Angelina asked, how does one differentiate or compare a charismatic leader and a transformational leader? So, can they overlap in terms of purpose? Are they the same?
My bad. So when it comes to purpose, or in other words, mission, if you go back to Ikigai philosophy again, there are two questions that actually determine purpose or mission. That is, what do you love? And also, what does the world need? So to be a transformation leader, obviously we need to not just recognize our core values and the things we're passionate about, but also to impact the people who really need the areas of service that required. And coming to that, transformation, in a sense, in my opinion, is a subset, is a fruit of charismatic leadership. Charismatic leadership is defined as knowing your who, your what, and your why. When you know your who, then you know your gifts that you have. And obviously the why is the main reason behind of your existence in life. That's why we talk about Ikigai, the reason of being. And when these three are married, that will help you to live out the charisma from within, your gift from within, and having the confidence to influence people for the betterment of their sake and the organization as well. And coming back, I would say transformation leadership is a fruit, the subset of charismatic leadership. When we learn to live our own life to the best, we're able to also help people along the way.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeremiah. There is another one who mentioned, thank you very much, Jeremiah, for clarification. Interesting. Ikigai will need to learn more about this. So it's truly something, there are a lot of things in the concept of heartset and mindset that's really not being explored um, during regular times, and but nowadays people are paying more attention to this, and are surprised that it's not just a simple thing, it's a combination of a lot of things, and that sometimes we really just need to start from somewhere, and that somewhere is from within us. So, going back to our chat board, um, there is, okay. Oh, there's also another sharing that said that charismatic leadership may be dangerous when followers become too dependent on the charisma. I think this was posted earlier when we were discussing about when is charisma bad, or when can it get not be helpful for you and for those around you. So going back, charismatic leadership may be dangerous when the followers become too dependent on the charisma of the leader instead of the followers working towards self-independence and equipping themselves with the knowledge and abilities. So charisma, I guess the leader, they become too dependent on the energy that the leader exudes, and that they fail to develop their own energy themselves.
Yeah. And we have a very clear example of that.
What?
Just look at what happened to the United States. The last 4 years, they had a charismatic leader, but without the right character. And look where they are now, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. But I think that's treading on dangerous grounds. We're going to politics. Hetal, do you have something to add?
Yeah, if I may just add to that, like I think what Jeremiah says is it's true. You need that charismatic aura in you, or from within. But the danger, but that is where I think that the marrying of charisma and emotional intelligence comes in, because a charismatic leader who is emotionally intelligent would then also put a lot of priority in giving growth to the people that he or she is leading. And it's not just about personal charisma, but then transforming that charisma into your people, knowing how to connect with them emotionally and getting them to bring out the charisma in them. So I think
Yes.
that's where the emotional intelligence part again comes in. So that's how it ties up, I suppose, as well.
Yes.
Because
And
leadership eventually is about looking beyond yourself and allowing your people to grow beyond you. So that is part of leadership. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents worth in that.
uh, actually, it's true. And it also ties up with empathy, because to actually share the the desire or the need for you to grow and share it with your people, you have to have that certain level of empathy to be able to know exactly how and what level of development your people are in that stage, so that you can help them, because not everyone grows or develops equally. So there has to be a certain level of empathy for you to know exactly where they are in their journey as well.
And may I say
Okay.
something about that?
Yes, please.
I was listening to all of you, and I think that what comes from all of us, as you said, is, self exploration and discovery. And I find that what really helps, like Jojo said, and what Jeremiah was saying as well, that asking the right questions, but to dare to ask them. It's better to ask the wrong questions and to reframe it and try again than not asking it as well at all. Because empathy, when you want to understand someone's feelings and to read them emotionally, you need to listen, active listen, to write, to ask the open question, to understand what's going on, and to be able to reframe and to see that you got it right. And a lot of the times when we are handling with people as leaders, as influencers, we tend to make assumptions. And we always say that assumptions is a very big danger. So it's better to refrain from making assumptions, to ask the questions, to gather the facts, to gather the information in order to make the right decision later on. And then the empathy grows, and your people, again, as Ethel just said, you're teaching them to grow and to self-explore and to be able to maximize their potential. So I guess, yeah, asking the right questions and to not making any assumptions will be a good start to practice empathy if you're not sure where you are at the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Dana again. Oh, this conversation has been a very, very interesting, and I hope the audience also finds it um, as interesting as the topics that we've covered, and that they would be able to use and maybe identify where they are exactly in their journey of awareness, self-awareness, so that they can move into the next level, and then lead and actually help the people around them. So we would like to thank you very much, our wonderful speakers, for this spending this afternoon here in Dana's area. I guess it's may I ask what time is it there?
Here in Greece,
Yes.
it is morning, it's 10 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for spending your morning with us. And
Thank you.
we hope that we are able to impart lots of tools and um, ideas for them to ponder upon in the next few days. Thank you very much, Jeremiah, Jojo, Hetal, and Dana. We hope to see you in other offerings of CTS. And we enjoyed your company with us this afternoon and this morning for Dana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Bye, Dana, Hetal, Jeremiah,
Bye
and
bye,
Happy
everyone.
birthday, Jojo.
bye.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
birthday.
And thank you all for your insights. It was lovely. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
Bye.
And
it's just
Anne, you did a
wonderful
wonderful
conversation.
job. Well done.
Well
Well
done.
done.
Thank you very much. I cannot do it without your help and your support.
Bye.
Oh, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so
Happy
much,
birthday.
everyone. And I appreciate all your help. Good job, Anna. And thank you so much, all speakers. And just to let you know, we have a prize that Hetal actually wanted to give. So we will announce that shortly. It's actually Reclaim Your Power on on a journey of emotional resilience through photo play. And we will be announcing more on how you can actually claim that prize in the coming days. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Marilyn. Bye-bye.
Bye.